that there are two sexes. I am male in the same way that you're male, and because of that, I'm a man. Trans people could basically act with impunity. We could do nothing wrong, and I think we've had what we've needed for quite a long time. The law protects me as a trans person. Lots of people live with things that they struggle with and have to cope with. It's what we do. We're all human.
Hi everybody and welcome back to Nick Talks. The episode's amazing guest is someone I've been wanting to speak to for quite a while now, and it's Debbie Hatton. How are you doing, Debbie?
I'm fine, thanks, Nick. It's really good to be talking to you.
Thank you so much for coming along today. For people who might not know you, you are a teacher, a political activist and a trans woman. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. In various degrees, yes.
Yes. I've never had a conversation. I've never had a conversation with someone who's been trans before. I've seen trans people. I think I have chatted to one or two trans people when I've been out in clubs or with friends and all that. But I've never been in a situation where I could say, let's have a proper conversation because I've got questions. And if I've got questions, it means other people have got questions. And this is the first time I've had a conversation with somebody where I'm a little bit worried about being rude, because that's not my intention to be rude or anything like that. But we live in a time now where we need to be careful. And I believe I was brought up correctly, and I'm a polite person, and I don't want to be rude. So I wanted to start off with about you personally. Obviously, you present as a woman, but you're a trans woman, which means you're a biological man who wishes to live his life or present himself as a woman. Would that be a fair description?
I think it is. It's hard to actually come up with definitions that everybody will accept and everybody likes, because everybody's got their own idea of what's actually happening here. But I think it's fair. I think as a scientist, I'm a science teacher, that there are two sexes. I am male in the same way that you're male, and because of that, I'm a man. You know, this is the biological truth. But there's more to life than that. When we approach each other in the street, when we perceive each other and interact with each other, we don't look at people's chromosomes or their gonads or their genitals is a third criteria that's used. We look at how we perceive somebody and how we look at somebody, and I'm usually perceived to be a woman, and people relate to me in the same way that other people who they've perceived to be women. So that complicates my life, but I get on with it in much the same way as everybody else, to be honest.
Of course, I mean, life is hard for most people. It always has been hard and it always will be hard. We may look back in the past and go, oh, they had it harder than us. And that's probably true. But that's no consolation when you're living today and, you know, you're looking around you and certain people seem to have better lives than you. Life's hard and we need to get through these challenges. And some people, you know, are born with afflictions and we go, oh, I'm so glad I'm not them. Other people are injured. Other people, you know, their parents may die in a car crash. Life's hard, and all we can do is get through that and carry on. I think that my first question really is: so if you live your life as a woman, present as a woman, and you're not, and you know you're not, at some level, are you ill? Are you mentally ill?
Well, I'm not. I hold down a job as a teacher, which is quite stressful, and I've got to be mentally sharp for that. I also run my own business. I'm an educational consultant who the other schools consult my skills as a school timetabler, actually. So I hold down all those roles, and the definition of being mentally ill is somebody whose cognitive functions are impaired, and my cognitive functions are just fine, Nick. So. Yeah, I'm not mentally, I'm sharp. Mentally, I'm fine.
Excellent, and I'm glad to hear that. Um, when did you start thinking that you may be trans? There probably wasn't even a word for it maybe several decades ago, because you're roughly my age. I think we're both born in '68. Um, when did those feelings first come? How did they manifest? And what sort of journey have you been on?
Well, I think probably date it back to when I first felt there was something possibly different about me
Mm.
that I couldn't possibly share with anybody else. The shame which 3 or 4 year olds feel, it can be very strong. It keeps us safe, but it also can stop us sharing things with other people. So I'd probably take it back to when I was 3 or 4 years old. I desperately wanted to be a girl at that time,
Mm.
but already I knew it was something that it was not to be shared with anybody else. This was something to be deeply shameful. 3 year old boys know that they're boys, and 3 year old girls know that they're girls.
Mm.
And as a 3 year old boy, I knew there was things that 3 year old boys shouldn't be doing, and what preferring to be a girl was not one of them. So if you can't share it, you bottle it all up, which is what I did, and I lived with it quite happily for. Well, no, I wouldn't say I lived with it quite happily, but I coped with it. I
Mm.
developed coping strategies, and did well in life. I did well in school. I picked up a career, and a career I enjoy and a career I'm good at. So it was something that you could live with. But as you said before, life's hard. Lots of people live with things that they struggle with and have to cope with. It's what we do. We're all human.
Absolutely.
And I say until I was in my early 40s, it was something, this desire to be the opposite sex, desire to be a woman, was something which well, if you can't do anything about it, you put it to one side and you just try and cope. But what made the change was that by the time I got into my early 40s, I realized that there were other people transitioning, i.e., changing their bodies so the bodies resemble women's bodies, and not just at a distance, not just in the newspapers. It had always existed in the news of the world, this, but that was a totally different life to what I led. It was when I came across people in my own social circles who had transitioned, and then the internet brought me into chat groups with other people who've done this, and then you start thinking, well, if they can do this, then I can do it too. And once you realize that you can do it, at that point, suddenly the urge to do it became overwhelming.
And at that point, then I believe you were married with children. Yes. Um, Over many years now, especially over the last 5 to 6, maybe a bit longer, I saw you on TV talking about this, and especially India Willoughby. That's her last name, in it, Willoughby. Yeah. Um, and she came across as quite sensible to begin with, but she seems to have fallen down some sort of rabbit hole. I mean, at the moment, she is gone off a cliff, where you seem to be grounded. That might be your science background, as in you look at facts, you look at logic, you look at proof. Um, but she's gone off. She's gone off at one end. You're there in the middle, saying to people, "I'm a trans woman. I know that's a bit different, and that's how I feel. None of us can judge how anybody else feels. That's how you feel. But there's certain realities that I'm not going to deny, such as biological sex, such as saying, even though I'm a trans woman, I know I'm a biological man. If I got pregnant, I know I'm not going to breastfeed. I can't get pregnant. Why have you been able to anchor yourself in reality where other people go down the rabbit hole of saying more and more crazy stuff and believing more and more crazy stuff? Because I believe those sort of people are making it harder for trans people in general, because we see people like India and we go, they're all nutcases because they don't believe in reality. And if we can't define what a man and a woman is and what biological sex is, then that means our whole society will just collapse because there's no anchors anymore. How have you remained so grounded?
Well, I don't want to speak to India's situation. Everybody's situation is different, but I can speak about very much about my own. And in my own case, my job, what pays the bills is my job as a teacher. And to go into school every day, well, I don't. I work part time these days, but to go into school 3 days a week and be teaching children means you have to stay grounded and you have to stay focused on your work. I go home in the evening and I'll spend time marking books, and time spent marking books is time I can't spend on Twitter, which is a bit more productive use of my time, I think. So I'm grounded at work and also at home. I was fortunate that myself and my wife got through this together. We're still married. We've been married now 32 years, and we're very fond of each other. And the that home life, which is very secure, and my job, which is very demanding, means that you have to really. I do commentate on issues. I do have a part-time job also as a journalist, so I write pieces for the press. But in that case, I'm also very you have to be very careful what I say. I am respectful of other people. I don't go out of my way to be nasty or critical of others. I would always hope that I'm there to critique policy rather than condemning individuals. That's what I'm trying to do. But with a family, and yes, my children read the things I write in the press, and also with the job I do, I'm responsible to the school. This in my job as a teacher, I've got to be careful. I'm there trying all the time when I commentate to be thinking about what's the policy. Let's give the policy a good shake. Let's see if it stands up. I'm quite happy to do that, but I'm also aware that there's individuals here, and there's individuals on all sides of this debate who have got a lot of personal stake in this, and some are very, very vulnerable. And I can't make them not vulnerable, but I'll always try not to hurt anybody if I can avoid it.
And that should be all our goals in life, is try not to hurt people if we can help it. There's times where we have to hurt people's feelings. We have to do things that come across as negative, but we have to do it. But if we don't have to do it, we should be respectful of each other. My take on a lot of this is I don't really care what consenting adults do, or single adult. I don't care what adults do, how they live their lives, as long as it's within the law and as long as not damaging other people. Trans is new. Therefore, we haven't spent decades debating this and understanding it. It hit the scene less than a decade ago. Internet has pushed it. So we're all still trying to understand the issue. Homosexuality, we debated it for 40 years, if not longer. So we have a lot more time to understand what went on there. Trans is different because it's been rushed. I'm quite happy for anyone to live the life they want to lead, because I know I'm not clever enough, intelligent enough to be able to dictate to other people how they should live their lives, because who am I? You ought to see the state of my life sometimes, and I'm going to give advice lessons to other people how to live their lives? I don't think so. But when I see people doing things that are damaging themselves or damaging children or damaging society, then I want to comment and I want to look into that. What things do you think the trans, I won't say, is it a trans community? Is it trans activists? Is there a difference? Are they going about it the right way? Because I feel that they're far too confrontational, far too in your face, and I think they're getting people's backs up, which will not be beneficial to trans people in the long run. Does that make sense? Is that right?
Yeah, I'd probably take those two things together, Nick, and say there is a community of trans activists, if that makes sense, of which I have been well and truly excluded from that community. And I'm all the better for it, actually, because there's far more to life than being trans.
And is that because you were the wrong type of trans? Just like we have the wrong type of black person where black people ignore them. We have the wrong type of gay person. And what they basically mean is you don't have the same views as us. So therefore we're excluding you, even though you should be part of this group because you fit the criteria. Because you have the wrong views, we don't want you. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, it is political, so it's sharing somebody's politics in this area, and groups of trans activists do tend to have very similar ideas on policy. So, for example, there's this whole concept of gender identity. So you go into the community of trans activists, and they will tell you that everybody has a gender identity. If you think you don't have one, you're ignoring something fundamental about yourself. And it's the fact that you have a female gender identity or a male gender identity, or one from the the list that keeps going on of others, determines who you are. I think that's nonsense. I really do. I think there are two biological sexes, but there's about probably I don't know how many billion people there are on the planet at the moment, but there's probably that number of genders at the moment because everybody's different, and gender just means type or division or or category, and we're all unique as human beings. So the fact that people have come up with this idea of gender identity, I think, is fallacious. I don't think we have a gender identity. I don't think it exists. And I think it's also unhelpful because it also puts people into boxes and pigeonholes, and that's what sometimes in politics we like to do that. There's these type of people, and there's these type of the people, and there's those type of people. And I've tried to stand against that and say no, we're all individuals, and we need to respect each other as individuals, while acknowledging the fact that there are two biological sexes. But the other point, which I think is less widely understood, is that as human beings, we relate to other human beings in two ways as well. We perceive two sexes. So when somebody is presenting very androgynously, we'll still want to be, no, is this a woman who's presenting androgynously or a man who's presenting androgynously? And perhaps I just speak for myself here, but I'm never happy until I've actually worked it out. Because as a human being, I perceive two sexes. It's what I perceive. So that binary, I think, is real, and I think it matters, and I think it's something which we need to build society on. And I think the community of trans activists have tried to deny that, and by trying to deny reality, if this is reality, and I think it is, if your policy relies on denying reality, then you're not going to get very far. It will collapse sooner or later, probably in a pile of absurdities. And I think that's what we've seen over the last few years.
Oh, it's definitely getting there. I worry about the backlash. I like to think we're a tolerant nation. Oh, no, we're getting more tolerant as time goes on. We weren't as tolerant as we were now. But I think as we're becoming more tolerant, we're accepting and being tolerant of people who are intolerant. And that can't last. I see some of the trans activists, and most of them are not even trans, or I don't perceive them to be trans. And their intolerance is off the chart. Threats of violence, physical violence, the abuse people get online. I'm not saying it all comes from that side. There's people on the right side as well who can just be as nasty and just as violent. But from the trans activist side, it's the hypocrisy, where one second they're saying be tolerant, be compassionate, be inclusive, but at the second time they're going get out or I'll smash your face in. I don't understand where they're coming from with that mindset. And you must see that.
Well, you do, and what the problem was, probably until quite recently, I think it's changed in the last 12 to 18 months. But until then, trans people could basically act with impunity. We could do nothing wrong. Nobody could tell us that we were acting improperly. Nobody could tell us off for our actions. We could basically do as we liked. So it seemed to me, and nobody would challenge, which I think is unhealthy, and it's unhealthy for people in that situation because we all need to be ready to be challenged by each other. It's part of human society. Is that we learn to challenge each other, and it keeps us safe. But the moment one group can act with impunity, what that draws in is other people who think who would like to be able to do this act with impunity. So it drew in, let's shall we say, trans allies who on the surface are there to protect, who are there to stand in solidarity with trans people, fly the pride flags at whenever to show their solidarity here. But at the same point, they're actually identifying into a group which can do as they like and not be challenged. So if people want to be immune from challenge, then it was always going to draw those people in. And those people, I think, were drawn in. And it's not done trans people any good because some people have behaved abominably. And it's caused a problem, and it causes people to think, well, what's actually happening here? And a common thing which I'm actually told is that people will know trans people in real life who they get on well with. They're friendly. They just seem like normal people. But then there's these group of people on social media, these activists, people who are very public about it, who are just totally different. And I think what's happened is that this group has been self-selecting, and it's drawn in others who want to be in some cases want to be obnoxious and outrageous. And it's not healthy, but I don't think trans is anything special about this. I think there's often a case where we all know people in real life that then if we look at the same group who are being very public online, you just realize that the group who's been very public are not necessarily representative of the people you know in real life. And I think it's the same for trans.
Oh, absolutely. Humans like to manipulate. If we see someone getting away with something or someone getting benefits with something, we're more likely to pretend we're that or we'll copy that because we're always looking for benefits and a step up all the time. There's been American university professors who've claimed to be black, and one of them turned out to be a Jewish girl. Not another, a senator or something claiming she was African American. No, she wasn't. So we're always looking for that shortcut to something better. Let's end on this. If you had the power or you're campaigning for things, where do you want the trans journey to go in the UK? What is it you would like, and when would you go? We have what we need now. What does that look like?
I think we do have what we need, and I think we've had what we've needed for quite a long time. The law protects me as a trans person. It's unlawful to treat me less favorably in employment, so I can't be sacked for being trans. In housing, I can't be thrown out the house. If I rent a house, my landlord can't evict me for being trans, and the provision of goods and services. If I get harassed as a trans person, I've got specific protections against that. We have all those protections. But the issue always was is that those are protections. The Equality Act and equalities legislation is a shield. But the problem was it was then used as and I'm quoting Kemi Badenoch here, who gave this quote that said the Equality Act is a shield and not a sword. But unfortunately, it was used as a sword. So people cited the Equality Act as a means to trampling over other people's rights. And I think that's what's been unhelpful. And we will need to expect a time of reflection and looking back at rights and making sure that rights are balanced with responsibilities. So that although I have the rights of a trans person to not to be dismissed from my job, say, for being trans, I also have responsibilities as a human being to behave appropriately at all times at work, and I do those things. Uh, Also, I've got the right to be treated equally in the provision of goods and services. So if I go swimming to the at the local swimming baths, I can't be turned around because I'm trans. But at the same point, if there's a changing room which is deemed specific for women, then the Equality Act doesn't give me the right to actually go and take and make use of that space. That's not right. And I think there has been change in the understanding of these things, and I think that's good. But it is going to take a while for some anyway to actually get used to this. It's not going to take away trans people's rights, but nor will it allow trans people to trample over other people's rights.
Isn't the aim of a society, a civilization, to reach a point where for harmony, we all have to compromise, and we all have to get along, and we all have to treat each other with respect? But the word is compromise, because nobody in society will get everything they want, every right they want, every privilege they want. And I say to many people who say they want to be treated equally, and I say, well, being treated equally really means you'll be treated as poorly as everybody else. Being treated equally isn't a privilege. It just means you're going to be treated like everybody else. The vast majority of people are treated quite poorly in society.
Yeah, I think it's the word that the law uses is not less favorably than anybody else. So it's not you will be treated well as a trans person, is you'll just not be treated any less favorably. And we all, we all have to get on with each other. But to say that we're all going to we can all expect perfect treatment, well, that's just a nonsense. But I just, I look at my life now, and it doesn't feel any different to, I don't think, anybody else's life. I get up, I go to work, I come home, I make the tea, just like anybody else. And I'm thankful for the law for allowing that to be the case. But I don't require any specific rights to trample over everybody else. I've never wanted those rights, and I think it's good that it's been made clear that we don't have that. Well, it's not a right, is it not? It's an inappropriate privilege, should we say, that we shouldn't be having.
Debbie, thank you so much for this conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've learned a lot. And my final words would be, we need to hear more from you. We need to see you more on the news channels, because you're grounded in reality. We have not an issue. We have something we're dealing with in this country. And if we're going to get through it and we're going to find the solutions that we need sensible voices who are grounded in reality. So for that, thank you so much, Debbie.
Thank you. Good to talk to you, Nick.
Thank you very much.